All right, round one is in the books, and we are just hours away from rounds 2 and 3. My goodness, there was a lot of surprises. Malik Willis is still on the board, only one quarterback taken, and all the trade ups. Jameson Williams is a Lion. I never imagined that would happen. Pretty crazy day. I'm going to give you 2 winners and 2 losers from day one. Of course, I'm talking from a Dynasty Football perspective. Now, there are so many winners and losers that we could talk about right now. So you comment down below. Tell me who your biggest winners and losers are. I'm going to start with some obvious ones, okay? If we look at the wide receivers, the guys who I think stepped into instant opportunities, as in day one, week one, they're going to get a lot of opportunity, a lot of target share, include guys like Drake London, Treylon Burks with the departure of A.J. Brown, and Chris Olave. I think those guys kind of step in. I guess you could put Garrett Wilson there as well. Technically Jameson Williams, but those 3 really stood out to me as guys who instantly stepped into a bunch of targets. So let me give you my more specific ones, though, that might not be as obvious potentially. Firstly, how about Hollywood Brown? You can now see the trade that happened on draft night just hours ago. I think this is a huge win for anyone out there who owns Hollywood Brown. And of course, there is a ripple effect there. But let's talk about this. Let's not forget that college connection that Hollywood Brown and Kyler Murray had at Oklahoma. Do you remember Oklahoma back in 2018? Do you remember that squad with CeeDee Lamb, Kyler Murray, Hollywood Brown? 2017, 2018, Mark Andrews was involved as well. But how about that 2018 season when Kyler Murray had 54 total touchdowns and won the Heisman Trophy? Who was his number one target? Yes, CeeDee Lamb was there, but his number one target was Hollywood Brown. If you actually check out Hollywood stats that year in 2018, that was the first year that Kyler started every single game. Hollywood had 75 receptions, over 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. And that's like impressive for the NFL, but that's also impressive for college, because keep in mind, they don't play as many games as they do in the NFL. Those are some very impressive stats. And yeah, CD was on the squad, but still, Hollywood was the one who really balled out with Kyler. They both had great stats, but this is a special connection. We saw that multiple times on film, and now they get to play together again in that Cliff Kingsbury offense. This is huge news for Hollywood. Obviously helps Kyler as well. But let's think about it. Not only does he step into that connection, he also steps into a perfect role. Christian Kirk is gone. He's on the Jags. So Hollywood's going to take his targets and more. AJ Green, another year older. D-Hop, again, dealing with some injuries. He's going to be a pivotal part of it. But he's going to step into a really good role within this offense, in a very high-powered offense as well. They always say you want to build your wide receiver room like a basketball team, right? And that's exactly what the Arizona Cardinals did. You know, you go to Twitter and some people say, oh my gosh, the Ravens got taken for a ride, or the Cardinals got taken for a ride. There's always someone on one side or the other. I thought this was a pretty even trade. I thought it made a lot of sense. And for the Cardinals, if you either have to pay Kirk what he got or pay Hollywood next year, then I would prefer to pay Hollywood next year. And let's talk about that, because I see this as a security move for Hollywood Brown. You don't trade a first-round pick for a player that you don't plan on extending. If they trade this first-round pick and next year they don't re-sign Hollywood Brown, this will be one of the worst moves of the decade, okay? So you can pretty much guarantee that unless something insane happens, we're going to see a contract extension for Hollywood Brown after this 5th-year option next offseason. So expect to see Cliff, Kyler, and Hollywood together for a very long time. And let's not forget, D-Hop isn't getting any younger, guys. I mean, already 30 years old, dealing with some injuries. So we could see a lot of targets, and that connection is something special. Don't forget what Hollywood Brown did last year with Lamar Jackson. He was balling before him and Lamar got a couple little injuries, knickknacks here and there. But from weeks 1 to 7, Hollywood Brown was the wide receiver 4. I mean, people in the community were saying this guy's a guaranteed top 10 guy from here on out. So he was balling out. Don't forget that. 85 receptions last year, or eight, I think it was 90 plus receptions, but you can pretty much book it. If Hollywood is healthy for every game this year, it's 100% going to be over 1,000 yards and over 85 receptions. And he's only 24 years old. You know, the other winners here would probably be Kyler Murray. Obviously, if you own him, you should feel good about this. And Rashad Bateman. I'm not going to go into detail, but it's pretty obvious. I mean, think about it. Hollywood's 140 plus targets are now gone. Rashad's going to step into a huge workload. So if you have Rashad Bateman on your team, you should feel like an absolute winner from this trade. But Rondale Moore is probably the biggest loser in this entire scenario. He is going to be involved, but it's hard to see him. It's hard to see him getting, 120 target season now. And maybe they will transition him into a different type of role. I don't know, but I do think he is a loser from this move. But that being said, it's still a complete offense when you think about it, a complete wide receiver room. My next winner, and honestly, this was a surprise for me, is Kenny Pickett. I'll be honest. I don't know about you guys. Tell me, comment down below. But when the Steelers were on the clock and Malik Willis was there, I thought, oh my God, we've been hearing it all offseason. They've been in love with Malik Willis. I thought for sure Malik Willis is about to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. But then they made the pick and you saw the surprise, and it was Kenny Pickett. So he's staying in Pittsburgh. This is huge for Kenny Pickett. Think about it. Number one, the organization that he is walking into. Think about how historic this organization has been for quarterbacks. Obviously, Big Ben almost playing 20 years, having, decades of fantasy relevant seasons. Terry Bradshaw was huge there. Tommy Maddox. I mean, how about Duck Hodges, Mason Rudolph? No, that's a little bit of a joke, but this is a really good organization to step into. A team that knows how to win, haven't had a losing season under their current head coach. And think about the weapons around him. I can't think of a better landing spot for a quarterback. He's stepping into an offense, right, with Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Pat Freiermuth, and Najee Harris, along with others. I mean, this is a fantastic group of weapons to start your career with. Could there be a better landing spot? I don't think so. You let me know if I'm wrong, but I think he fits this team really well. He fits the culture. He's a winner. And the fact that he has the ability to extend plays with his legs, I think is going to be really big for this offense. Not the best offensive line. Hopefully they can improve that in the second round, but let's not forget, from picks 25 to picks 90, most people are saying that they're all similar value in this year's class. So they can still improve that offensive line around Kenny Pickett. And it's also huge that he got first round draft capital, because first round draft capital, historically has led to many opportunities to take the starting role. You got the 5th-year option as well. So I guess this puts them in an interesting position with Mason Rudolph, but you eventually realize, okay, Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky's probably going to implode like he normally does. And then let's say week 4 or 5 into the season, we'll probably see Kenny Pickett take this role. Now, obviously, Mitch Trubisky is a huge loser here. I don't think there's any way around that. Now, does this help Deontay Johnson? I don't know. I'm not convinced that this is a better situation than what he had last year. I do think Chase Claypool's upside is higher, along with Pat Freiermuth, but I'm not so certain that it hurts Deontay or helps him at this point. But let's talk about some losers, okay? Again, there's a lot of losers, and I think the most obvious person to point out here is Aaron Rodgers. And to be honest, just this Packers team in general, I feel really bad for Packer fans out there. I have a friend who's a Packer, and let's just say it was rough for him, to say the least. But not only did you not draft a wide receiver, but you also drafted Quay Walker. And, maybe we don't know enough about Quay Walker, but from what I've been hearing, he wasn't even the second best linebacker in the class, and he went as the first linebacker overall. I mean, I definitely think Devin Lloyd was the better choice here if you're going to go linebacker, maybe even Nakobe Dean. You can make the case for Quay, but I mean, even the positional value, it's not what any Packer fan wanted to see. It's not what Aaron Rodgers wanted to see. At Devontae Wyatt was pretty good value, to be fair, but now we also are starting to hear about Aaron Rodgers' frustration. I mean, it's been like how many years of back and forth arguments, and Aaron Rodgers finally resigns. But then when Adams gets traded, we hear this report from people saying that Aaron Rodgers knew about it. Oh, yeah, I knew Adams was going to go, and I still resigned. But he came out today and said, when I made my decision, I was still thinking he was going to come back, referring to Davante Adams. So you can see there's a little bit of frustration there. And what has the issue always been? Lack of communication. So now they sign him to a long-term deal. They go defensive back-to-back first-round picks here. And it's rough, man. I mean, let's take a look at this current depth chart for this wide receiver room. And I said this on stream, but I'll say it here again. This is the worst wide receiver core in the NFL. It's the worst receiving core in general in the National Football League. Tell me, I mean, comment down below. Is there another team that you think is in a worse position right now for their wide receivers and tight ends as far as pass catchers than the Green Bay Packers? We got Allen Lazard, Sammy Watkins, who's a ghost of what he was, Randall Cobb, who was a ghost of what he was, Amari Rodgers, unproven, could maybe take a next step, and then Robert Bobby Tonyan. I mean, this is the worst core in the league right now, without a doubt. Maybe Chicago has a worse core, but to be fair, at least they have Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet, guys who have a lot of upside. And while Kansas City lost Travis Kelce, at least they got Juju, at least they got MVS, and they still have Travis Kelce. And also they got incredible value with their defensive picks that they did make. So I don't know, man. I mean, this is worst case scenario for Aaron Rodgers. If you own him, he's still going to be fine, but maybe the upside is capped. I know there's his history of him, having really good seasons without Davante Adams, but still, I mean, they have to do something in this second round. There's still George Pickens, Sky Moore, Christian Watson, John Mechie. But really, unless it's Pickens or Sky Moore, I don't really feel like super confident. And I think this is a huge fail for the Packers organization in the offseason. I know they can still sign people like Landry, but as of right now, after day one, Aaron Rodgers and this Packers wide receiver room is definitely, a loser. I guess maybe you could say there's value here for Allen Lazard now. Like maybe he's a good pickup. But I don't know, man. This is rough. Rodgers is almost 40 years old, and we just have no wide receiver to build with right now. It's worst case scenario. Well, let's talk about one more loser that I have. And don't hate me for saying this. Just let me explain for 1 second. And that is A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown is a loser after day one. And to be clear, this has nothing to do with Devonta Smith, okay? So I'm not going to say that Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, like Devonta Smith is going to be the alpha. That's not what I'm saying here. However, let's talk about this. Number one, the quarterback play and the consistent quarterback play is what really worries me. At this point, I don't think Jalen Hurts has proven that he can create even one relevant fantasy wide receiver on a consistent basis. I mean, let's look at Devonta Smith last year, who, by the way, was fighting with no one for target share, okay? In 6 games, Devonta Smith had under 6 points. In 6 games. In 5 games, he had over 19 points. Think about it. If you own Devonta Smith or if you did not, maybe you will remember last season, you never knew if you could start him. You never knew if he was going to cost you your entire week because he put up 3 points, or if he was going to catch a touchdown and at least salvage his day. That is the reality of what Devonta Smith was last year. And I don't think that's because of who Devonta Smith is as a player. I think it's because of the offense that they're in. And more specifically, Jalen Hurts' inability to create consistent fantasy wide receiver production. Now, was Hurts good for the football team? Yes, he was. He was good for their team as a whole, and he helped them win games. But that doesn't mean that he can create a consistently relevant fantasy wide receiver. In my eyes, this absolutely hurts A.J. Brown's upside. And let's think about this in a different perspective, just one more thing on the Jalen Hurts thing. If we're comparing these offenses, I understand that both the Eagles and the Titans were run-focused offenses, okay? However, Ryan Tannehill, in his connection with A.J. Brown, was so efficient that even though a lot of times it was low volume, A.J. Brown was able to ball out, okay? And think about it. Ryan Tannehill, for me, is miles ahead of Jalen Hurts as far as the quarterback that I want my wide receiver to be reliant upon in fantasy. Okay, that's where I'm coming from. I'm not even saying that I would prefer Ryan Tannehill if I started a franchise right now over Jalen Hurts. All I'm saying is, from a consistency basis, A.J. Brown would be much better off with Ryan Tannehill than Jalen Hurts. And yes, he does step into an offense where there is guys like Devonta Smith, guys like Dallas Goedert. So we have to keep that in mind. But the other thing that was super, super important for me here is that this Eagles team got a lot better. And that is really, really good for the Eagles franchise. If I'm an Eagles fan right now, you have nothing but excitement. And that's how it should be, okay? But this Eagles team got a whole lot better. And you might ask, well, why is that bad? Let's think about it. This team won 9 games in 2021. The NFC got extremely worse this year. Extremely worse. The AFC is stacked. There's 16 teams you could point to and say they could probably make the playoffs. Look at the NFC, there's really only 5 or 6 teams that are a lock. Probably 5. So the Eagles won 9 games last year in a harder NFC. Now this division, by the way, the NFC East, has one of the easiest schedules in all of football this year because they had one of the hardest last year. So they have one of the easiest schedules. The NFC is worse, right? They improved their team by getting A.J. Brown and Jordan Davis. This team could realistically win 10 to 11 or 12 games this year. That's not out of the question, in my opinion. So why is that bad for A.J. Brown? Well, it's bad because we have kept saying for Devonta Smith, hey, eventually there will be a new quarterback there, right? Jalen Hurts is going to get replaced in 2023. That's what everyone has been saying. But if this team is going to be better, their draft capital is going to be worth less. And I know they had the Saints pick, but the Saints are also in the NFC. Both of these teams could win 10 plus games. And then all of a sudden the Eagles next year have the 21st and 26th pick in the draft. And if next year's quarterbacks, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, if they are truly elite quarterback prospects, let's think about this, then those 2 picks are not going to be worth it. Late round, back of the draft picks are not going to be enough for a team to move up. And let's think about this, for example, from last year's perspective, right? Trevor Lawrence was going number 1 overall. We all thought it was a fantastic quarterback class, and it still could turn out to be that. Do you think if the Jags were approached by a team for the, 220 plus picks, the 21st and 22nd pick, that they would trade back from the 1 spot? No, and would anyone have given the Jags enough to really even trade off of that spot? Do you see where I'm coming from? Like the realistic opportunity for them to trade up for a quarterback has gotten much worse for the 2023 class because they are a much better team. So the reason this is bad is because you are going to be reliant on Jalen Hurts for quite a while, right? And this team feels like they are building all in around Jalen Hurts. And I just don't think that there will ever be enough consistency for A.J. Brown. I still think he's going to be good. And to be clear, don't hear what I'm not saying, okay? Listen to what I actually am saying. I'm not saying that you sell A.J. Brown. I'm not saying that you sell him low or that you don't draft him in startups. I am saying lower your expectations, okay? Because the combination of this team being a run-focused team, Jalen Hurts' inconsistency for a fantasy wide receiver, and this team getting better means that there is less of a chance that the quarterback changes in 2023 if there are truly elite prospects there. And it means that maybe A.J. Brown is going to be attached to Jalen Hurts for quite a while. And that's just not ideal for dynasty purposes. So I love the contract that he got. Big props to him. I think he's absolutely an elite talent wide receiver. And I'm not ready to give up on him. Guys, I have him in multiple leagues. But I am disappointed. I am a little bit let down. Okay, Jalen Hurts could develop, but I need to be realistic here. This does hurt his upside. I mean, how many 30-point games are we really going to see in this run-focused Eagles offense with Jalen Hurts at quarterback? It's just, even in the red zone, Jalen Hurts is more likely to run it for a touchdown than to throw it. How many times did we see him scramble for a touchdown? It's just, he doesn't have the confidence in the red zone, and he's not. I mean, go look at the film for him throwing a long ball. How many of those were intercepted or inaccurate? It's just, I'm worried. Okay. So comment down below. Let me know who are your biggest winners and losers, because there's so many that I could have covered. I'm excited for day 2. I hope you are too. Comment down below.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
watch it.
You can also subscribe
right now
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLandFam.